Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. And today we're going to be taking a look at a specific style of cognac, the cigar blended cognacs today. Now we have three players. We have the Pierre Ferrand Cigar, we have the Heinz Cigar Reserve XO, and the Maison Gaultier Pinar del Rio XO right here. And of course, cigar blended cognacs are made specifically for that. They're made to a bolder profile. They want them to stand up to a really nice cigar. And so I tend to find them very interesting even without a cigar, simply because I like those bolder, denser profiles. That's why I'm a big fan of Armagnac. They just have that depth, and I'm always I enjoy that a lot. Now, that's not to say I don't enjoy pure cognacs, because I really do. I love it when they get very, apricot and peaches and orchard-driven flavors, and they have those really long, elegant finishes. Love those as well. But, to change the game, sometimes I'll go to an Armagnac or I'll go to a cigar blend. So we're going to go ahead and go through these, see what I think about each and every one of them. As far as ages, the thing about cognacs is that very few do they ever put age statements. Courvoisier did it with the 21 and so on. But most of them don't do that. They'll do the age designators, the VS, VSOP, the XOs, which we have two here. And the XOs now mean they're at least 10 years old. So every bit of eau de vie that went into the blend, minimum 10 years, but more than likely, they always have older, sometimes 20, 25, even maybe 30-year-old went into these blends, especially when you're trying to create a blend that has a bolder profile for a cigar. So I know I read up on the Pierre Ferrand. This one was supposedly the average age of the eau de vies that are in this one is 25 years old. So 25 years old, I saw it on the shelf for $65. I was surprised to even see it there. I noticed that it still had the Pierre Ferrand name. Of course, that has now changed because of the way the two families kind of did the naming rights. They've changed it to now it's just Maison Ferrand moving forward. So if you see Pierre Ferrand, that's probably going to be slightly older. All right, but let's go ahead and get to the nosing and tasting, starting with that Pierre Ferrand. $65 bottle. Average age, roughly 25 years old. Now, when I do nose this one, wow, yes, it's a lot of baked apples, golden raisins, apricots, fresh apricot. It's almost a little honey mead characteristic going on the nose as well. And you have to be careful with cognacs. When I start nosing that extra bit of sweetness, I have to be a little concerned about dosage. Sometimes they are allowed to add some coloring, and they are allowed to add a couple of little tricks. They'll use a dosage, which is basically a sweetened condensed cognac that they'll kind of cut in just a little bit. They can add a little bit of that to there. So when I start picking up a little extra sweetness, I'm curious if that's the dosage I'm getting there. I think it is here. And then sometimes they'll have this other little, basically a concentrate, which is a boisé. Now a boisé is just going to be this really dense old cognac. A lot of times they'll let them age 60 or so years in the barrel, and they'll get this really dense oak character. Too much to be sipped by itself. But when you add just a little bit of that to the blends, it really bumps up the oak profile. Okay, so once we get beyond that honey mead character, those golden raisins, those baked apples, there is a really nice baking spice characteristic throughout. So you are getting a little balanced cinnamon clove and a little nutmeg. Searching on the back here, we're starting to get when I get on the edge of the glass, is where I'm picking up all the dark fruit. So I'm picking up the figs, the dates. There's almost a little hint of a floral component. Not quite rose water. Maybe a really very subtle, like a violet characteristic. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now we're going to check this Heinz. Reset there. Oh, wow. This one's more pure. This one It doesn't smell like any dosage here. It's very focused on the grape. Those, you know, a lot of times they're going to use those Uni Blanc grapes, and this one is really focused. Grape characteristic coming right on through. A little bit of the grape skins as well. Nice, almost a hint of like a minerality on this one. Caramel, brown sugar, a little bolstered up there. This one was focused more on like a honey characteristic, and this one's not. Plums, a little fig, a little date, but there's a lot of red berries in this one. And I'm going to call this one like a raspberry cherry, a little more cherry than raspberry. A compote, so they're a little bit cooked down with sugars. But when I get those amount of berries in with the spice characteristic, which is not big on this one is a lot of, a little bit of clove, but a little more cinnamon. But the cinnamon is very nice and balanced as well. Not sharp, anything like that. But when I get that amount of fruits in there with a clove characteristic and almost a nice vanilla oak tone underneath, sometimes I can get like a red licorice character, and that's what I'm kind of picking up in here. Wow, but the grape, wow, what a star on that one. Okay. The Maison Gaultier, let's see, 41.2% ABV, so a little bump, let's see. Smelling really nice and pure as well. Maybe just a hint, there's just maybe a hint of dosage here. Not as much as there was on the Ferrand. Yeah, but this one is definitely more. Okay, this one has kind of a combination. This one actually has a sweetness of honey, so the mead character. And when I say mead, it is a little, you know, honey, we all know what honey smells and tastes like. It's very rich and potent. Mead is almost like, you know, it's kind of a watered down honey. That's kind of what I pick up here. A little more fig driven on this one than even here. A little more chocolate, big vanilla. Hint of berries, the cherry, and specifically here. Yeah, that little fig, the raisin, that's in there. It's in the background nicely. Spices seems very similar here. Baking spice, cinnamon, clove. Little touch of nutmeg, but it's very subdued and balanced, so I like that. Ooh, smells very, very nice. Okay. The grape was not as noticeable as it was here. This is a very, very pure in that aspect. And these two were a little bit leaning heavier on the berries and the dark fruits, right? Okay. Start with the taste on the Ferrand. Let me get a little rinse first. Okay. You definitely have some dosage here, but not overdone. Very, very enjoyable, especially for $65. Let's go. Second sip. Of course, we always take just a little bit on the first one, a little bigger sip on the second one with brandies, cognacs, Armagnac. I'm brushing it over my tongue. I'm checking the viscosity. Medium viscosity, maybe just a smidge over medium. I think the sugar component is actually helping it feel a little more silky than it is. Baking spices rushing in. When it first enters, wow, and it's still transitioning. We're starting to transition. I'm picking up more licorice and actually a little tobacco leaf on the back end along with a dark chocolate. But when it enters, there was a lot of brown sugar, a lot of that honeyish mead character coming right up front. Grape riding right up forward, so that's nice that that's hitting up early. Right behind the grape, Then you're picking up the berries, and there is a little mix, kind of cherry raspberry cooked down. That component element is in there. Baking spices starts swelling. Really nice mid palate as it rolls over, getting very chocolatey, leather on the back end, almost turning into the way that the honey is still lingering and you're starting to develop the wood sugars on the back end. It's actually almost feeling like a molasses character on the back end. Beautiful, beautiful cognac cigar blend. Not super complex. But it kind of runs a really nice wave. It intensifies on the mid palate, which you're going to need with this nice cigar, and then really lays out with a lot of dark and rich character. You know, that licorice, the clove, the oak. Yeah, still the figs and the dates. All the dark fruit characteristics really started piling on the back end. That's all really lingering. Dark chocolate in there. But I do love that the grape is never really lost. It runs, it hits you right up front, kind of falls underneath all these other cresting aromatics and flavors, and then all of a sudden it's just running right underneath, and it still starts coming through, and then on the back end it starts rising up and still focuses as it runs. It's a little sweet, but not too sweet. That's the beautiful thing about that one. They were very careful with that. All right. Hein XO Cigar Reserve. Ooh. All right, here we go. Yeah, I can already tell this is going to be a beauty. Wow. Fruit, floral. Balanced sugars, nothing artificial feeling here. Big spice swell. Cleans up on the finish. All right, here we go. Let's judge it right here. Yeah, that really pure grape skins right up front. Gives you a little bit of tartness, a little bitterness. Right as soon as you start focusing on that, you start picking up just a little fig. Really starts to swell on the mid palate. Big and bold with the cinnamon leading the charge there. Doesn't get hot. Actually starts drying out just a smidge as it crests over. Starts feeling more of that grape skin bitterness right there. Starting to pick up the fig, almost a pomegranate tone in this one because of the way that's being really fruity and little floral. It almost feels like a pomegranate to me as it rolls into the back end. A little dusting of cocoa. A little orange oil, orange zest maybe in this one as well on the back end. Yep, that's in there. And a hint of a tobacco leaf kind of rolling along as well. I can see how that's going to complement a cigar very, very well. I really enjoy it. The finish isn't super complex. It is lingering. The grape is rolling, but it's not staying super complex. Matter of fact, I think the Ferrand was a little more complex on the finish, the amount of flavors, let's just say it like that, on the finish than the Hein. But overall enjoyability, I love the purity of this one so far. Just a smidge over the Ferrand. Okay. Maison Gaultier, Pinar del Rio, which is supposedly named after a valley in the Cuban valley where they grow a lot of the tobacco leaves. Yeah, a little sweeter. Okay, here we go. Wow. That one's nice. Wow. Okay. I think this one is almost a split right between these two. There is dosage, but there's a really big purity to it as well as far as the impact of the grape, the natural feeling of it. So there's just a little dosage. It's not a lot, okay? medium-high viscosity as it enters. Combination of the grape, the raisins, golden raisins, cherries, real tart, tangy, that's the word, tangy on the cherry aspect. Leading the charge right up front, very juicy, almost starts to make you salivate. Baking spices show up on the mid palate, don't swell nearly as much as they did on the high, or actually even the front. They kind of just show up. It's starting to feel a little dry on the palate as well. Both of these aren't having enough sugars as this one did to kind of not have that little feeling of dryness on the back of the mid palate, which isn't a bad thing. I actually like it because it actually makes it feel a little more pure, a little more natural of a spirit. Not as, it's not cloying, but it is sugary. You know, you're picking that up. The figs, again, sweet dates are rolling through here on the back end. Vanilla oak running along the bottom. Matter of fact, I think this one has the most oak presence of them all so far. There's almost a sweet almond characteristic as well. Ooh, here we go on that third sip there. Now I'm starting to pick up more of that apricot, that little peach element that's in here. Oh, that's a beauty. Oof. To be honest, I really enjoy them all for different reasons. This one definitely feels like could be sipped anytime with or without a cigar. Very enjoyable. The Hein, it will stand up to a cigar as well. It's a little more, I think it's so hard to tell between these two, because I believe the Maison feels a little more complex right now than the Hein, but the Hein has that purity behind it. Pure cognac. No additives, that feel to it. So I really appreciate that. And the Ferran for $65, it really does hang really well with these that are twice the price. So if you happen to see this one, I can understand why it won the award that it did in '99. Of course, we've gotten now to the point with cognacs and Armagnacs where we're starting to really appreciate, you know, a little higher ABV or a little older profile. We're starting to get a little more releases like that. So to see something like this for 65 at, they say, about 25 years old, I think that's a really solid buy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video review. I think the one thing we learned is that there's really no losers here. I think this one would do really well with a cigar because of that sugar. It's going to help cut through that smoke just a little bit and make that overall enjoyability very nice. So that's one added bonus to dosage with a cigar. This one as well, really pure. This one, I think this one's gonna be best with a lighter cigar. So, you know, just more of a natural Connecticut, something lighter. Don't do a Maduro with this one. You could probably get away with that with this one and this one. But anyway, again, if you have time and are able to join me over at patreon.com/LiquorHound, please do, because I've got one more, and this is going to be my budget pick. This is going to be the one that I think everybody has access to. Nobody really knows about it. So hopefully you can join me over there and see how it compares to these three. Anyway, thank you as always for being here. Everyone, keep leaving all those great comments, and I'll get to them just as soon as I can. Have a great day, and cheers.